Hi, my name is Bill McIntosh, and I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to look at this short promotional video that I've prepared to tell you about the new sight reading method book and companion book of etudes that I have produced over the last few years. And the key word here is method. It is not just a book of exercises on how to become a better sight reader. It is a book full of exercises along with instruction and structured practice in order to develop the skills it takes to become a great sight reader. What I have done, I have identified three major areas that are the biggest problem areas when it comes to being a good music reader. Number one is counting. It sounds so simple, but it is so overlooked. And then the second thing is the ability to break down and count rhythms. And then the third part is the 23 what I call fundamental skills necessary to be a good music reader. Because I think more than anything, it's not a sight reading problem as much as it is a problem with reading music. So I'm going to talk about these three sections very quickly so that you can get an idea how I think that the students in your program could benefit from using this new book. All right, the very first concept that is imported in the book is counting. And counting is about like when they tell you to breathe from the diaphragm or all the different things they talk about breathing when no one has really sat you down and explained to you how to truly breathe to play your instrument, or how they say play in tune, your intonation, but no one has sat down and really explained to you how to tell when you're in tune and when you're out of tune. Well, I see counting as the same way. When we learned how to play, just like the students who are in your band program now, there was someone keeping time for them all the time. And very few, even really fine players, don't have the ability to internalize a steady tempo. Now, as I put a sample page up, one of the first things that I've done is that I use visual reminders throughout the entire book that have the words count in every possible font so that people are constantly being reminded to count. And also instructions given on how to internalize the steady tempo, because most people can't do it. And you really can't categorize things in your mind if you're not keeping a steady beat, because that steady beat is the foundation of all of the chunking or categorization that takes place in your mind when you're trying to count. Big problem area number two. One of the first things that Larry said to me kind of threw me, it was kind of like throwing me a curve, because he made this statement right here. When it comes to rhythms, in the complex rhythms that appear on the page as you're reading them, they go by too fast for you to count them. You must plug them in. And when he first said that, I really had to think about it, because that went against everything I had ever thought about. But then he said, first, you must totally understand a counting system to the point that you can break down any rhythm that you see. And then, by guided practice of the right material, you're building up in your memory a bank of rhythms. And then we go back to number one, counting. You must have practiced breaking down rhythms and then playing a lot of examples so that you build up in your rhythm bank, and when you're counting the difficult rhythm patterns, you practice them enough that you simply plug them in on the part of the beat that they come in on. So I spend a lot of time trying to teach counting, and then through rhythm exercises and written exercises, building up the memory bank, and then in the melodic portions you put it into a performance setting so that you're teaching your written, and your performance. And all three of those things come together to build your rhythm bank in your mind. The third important part of being a solid or good sight reader, music reader, whatever you want to call it, is understanding what I call the fundamental signs or parts of reading music: key signature, time signature, accidentals, first endings. If you look at the example that I'm putting up on the screen, you can see where I have set up lessons that step through what I call the most important music reading skills. Now, if you think about the books that you teach your beginning band classes out of, and I have taught out of a lot of different books going all the way back to the late 60s when I was learning how to play, and I studied out of the Master Method book. Then later I went into the First Division book. All of these books do a pretty good job. But if you've ever noticed the explanation that they give for some of the most important aspects of reading music, like key signatures, time signatures, accidentals, things like that, number one, they give a very short explanation. And then to make matters worse, the new concept might appear once or twice, and then you don't see it again for several pages. So what I have tried to do in the first 23 lessons of this book is each lesson has 3 parts. A short teaching section where I try to, as short and concisely, but at the same time completely teach a concept. Now, I'm big on pencil and paper learning. Simply going down the line and having students play an exercise for you, that is not a very good way to check to see what's going on in their mind. Because going back to myself, I had a really good ear. And I noticed when I started shooting this video, you might see a guy over here holding a cornet in an Air Force uniform, and that was actually my stand mate for the first few years that I played. And he's now retired from the Air Force Band in Washington, D.C. Well, he learned how to read music good, so whatever he played, I could listen to it and then play it. So I think that the pencil and paper learning is very important in the assessment portion. And so then I have the melodic or performance portion of the lesson. And I have in the last few months have also set up all of the Smart Music assessment files for every book and for every exercise, so that either in the classroom setting or students at home can actually play these examples and get assessed on how well they're playing them, what's correct and what's not. I think that's really important. And another part of the book that I feel like is unique and helps make the book effective is that I continue to use each concept after it's introduced. I don't introduce a concept, use it a couple of times, and then you don't see it anymore. I keep bringing all of the previous concepts into the current music examples so that students are constantly seeing these new ideas, and they're not just placed and forgotten. You're constantly getting the opportunity to practice them. And then the other thing that I do is that I build what I call a checklist. And as I introduce new skills or new ideas, I add that to the checklist. And when you get to the performance portion of each lesson, the instructions are to read the short checklist. If you're in class, have everyone read it aloud, play an exercise. Read the checklist, play the exercise. Read the checklist, play the exercise. And Bobby Shew has spoken about my book, and one of the things that he really seems to like is that The exercises that I have provided in these books, they work very hard to internalize all of the needed ideas so that we can just be on automatic pilot when we pick up our horn, whatever it may be, and sit down to read the music. I have two books. One is the first book, which is complete with instructional lessons, written assignments, and the lessons, and then the last 7 lessons deal more with terminology and style and articulation and things like that. All of this book is available for 18 instruments. It's available for all brass, all woodwind, all strings, and mallet percussion. Then I have written an etude book of 23 sections that actually correspond with all 23 lessons in the first book, that gives the students more opportunities to practice, and as an educator also gives you the more opportunities to be able to assess the students, to check learning on the different, to see if you're getting any level of mastery. And what I'm doing is I'm offering these as a download site license. So basically you're going to get PDFs of 36 books and the Smart Music assessment files for all 36 books. And the cost is $200, and with that, your school, not entire school system, not entire band programs, but the school is given permission to make as many copies of the material as they need for their program. So hopefully it is affordable and will help you have more effective musicians. I really hope you will consider buying this book set. I would appreciate it, and I'm sure my banker would appreciate it too. So, hey, y'all have a good day. Don't fake the funk, because your nose will grow.